And so the important lesson is you can move fast and move around fast and get there fast, and you can maybe take your time and you can move slow and you can still end up in the same position at a great company like Hoffmann Murtaugh. Hi, everyone. It's Shea Murtaugh, the founder and president of Hoffmann Murtaugh. You are now tuned into the HMDL podcast, where we discuss all tools, tips, and firsthand experience to growing yourself professionally and personally. I'm very excited today to have two of my own team members, Anastasia Otto, who is an account manager and media planner, and Jeana Decker, who is a media coordinator. Thank you guys so much for being on the HMDL podcast today.
Thanks for having us. It's weird being on this side of the camera.
Yes, because you guys are busy doing work for a lot of our clients. And I think it's great to kind of maybe have you on the HMDL podcast to kind of learn some insights on what it takes to get a job right out of college. We know our listeners are really interested in how to get into a company like Hoffmann Murtaugh or an advertising agency in general. And so I think it's really important to have people like yourselves up on this podcast to kind of learn more. So Anastasia, so I want to start with you. So you graduated in 2019, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about, your day-to-day role at Hoffmann Murtaugh and a little bit about graduating and how you got here.
Sure. So my role at the beginning, I was hired in February of 2020, and I was hired into assistant media planner. And now I have the role of media planner and account manager. And essentially what my role at Hoffmann Murtaugh is to work with an amazing team and wonderful clients of all different industries, really identify and understand their objectives, their goals, also some of their obstacles, and work with different tools, research, and also the amazing, brilliant minds that we have internally here to create strategic media plans for clients, and then also just overseeing that campaigns are executed successfully. As far as my background for education, I went to the University of Akron and I graduated with a bachelor's in marketing management and had a few internships in between, and now I'm here.
So Anastasia, how did you get the job at Hoffmann Murtaugh? And I think the story is pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to hearing how you tell it. But I kind of went after you. So tell me a little bit about how that happened. How did you get my attention?
Of course. It's such a great story to tell. To me, it's almost a miracle because I was in such a limbo after graduating and finishing my internship in New York, coming back home, and really that start where it's time to decide really the first foot that you're going to put in starting your career after college. And that decision was a bit hard for me. And I didn't know if I wanted to go back to New York City or if I wanted to stay and be closer with my family where there's less opportunities for jobs and careers in marketing or advertising as it is. So it was a hard choice for me to make, and wanting to get right out there in the career field, but was hoping and praying that the right opportunity would come along, and came home one night and a Shea Murtaugh emailed me in my Indeed inbox saying that she saw my resume and she'd like me to send it to her in email. And so I did. And Shea set up a call with me the very next day, and I was excited to talk with her. And she explained me all about Hoffmann Murtaugh, the position, asked me some of my background. She told me that the work was remote and asked me if I was okay with that. And I thought, oh, well, this is definitely a dream job. I get to work from home because I had previous internships where I saw everyone would just go to an office and work on their laptops, and how I thought you could do that easily and be productive at home. So really tried to follow up with Shea, had interviews with other people within the company, and was able to really feel like I made a connection when I had those other calls. And then just really was even more convinced to want to be part of the team, especially getting to speak with the rest of them. And really, really wanted to follow up and continue to do so because I wanted the position. And come February, Shea gave me a chance.
Yeah, and I think that's the differentiator. I might have reached out to you at the beginning because your resume fitted, it fitted what we were looking for. It was a fit. And, then, some time had passed and we weren't ready to pull the trigger on hiring. And then you took it in your hands and started really reaching out, really, I think it was the right the right point of follow-up. You weren't aggressive or anything, but you really made it clear that you wanted this job. And I think that was the differentiator. So let's move on to Jeana, because Jeana has a different story and, a little bit more similar, but different. So Jeana, tell me a little bit about what you do at Hoffmann Murtaugh and a little bit about how you, how long you've been out of school and all that.
Yeah, well, I am a media coordinator at Hoffmann Murtaugh, and I assist the buying and activation team in all things broadcast. So anything TV, radio, I help get those buys out for our clients and put those commercials out there. I also do a little bit of social, and so I run some campaigns and help set it up for our clients and monitor the success of those. And I've been out of school for, oh my God, almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
Hasn't feel that long, but I guess 2 years now.
And I think that's the interesting part about your story, Jeana, is that, you graduated right before COVID or after COVID? I can't.
Well, I graduated at the end of 2019, and I wanted to take some time to really process and see what I wanted to do in marketing, because if you have a marketing degree, you could essentially do anything. And so I wanted to take that time, figure out what was right for me. And during that, COVID hit. And so I had a lot of time to think and process. So I took some time off.
Did that scare you when COVID hit? Did it
Yes.
really make this a real, situation where you might not have a job? Because a lot of people are losing their jobs at that time in marketing.
Exactly. Yeah, the market was pretty bad for the job hunt. I was super excited to get into the industry, and it hit so major roadblock that no one was expecting. So just kind of had to roll with the punches. But it did give me time to figure out what direction I wanted to go in marketing, and eventually it all worked out because I ended up here.
Yeah.
But
So let's talk a little. Yeah, let's talk a little bit. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because I love your story. I think it's so important for people right out of college to really take chances. And so tell me how you got here. Talk about the story that you believe that you got on how you got here.
Yes. So I was looking at different agencies in different cities. I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to end up quite yet. And so when I was browsing Pittsburgh agencies, I came across Hoffmann Murtaugh, and I went on the website. I thoroughly basically stalked you guys. I went all over social media, read almost every single post that you guys had, and I really connected with your story. I loved how you were able to start this agency with no capital and just like a little bit experience before, and be the #1 media agency in Pittsburgh. And so I reached out to you on LinkedIn, kind of hoping that eventually would end up to a job, but I knew I didn't have experience yet. So I reached out to you more as a mentor and be like, hey, I never had an internship. I am at the point where I'm graduating. I'm not sure what direction to go into now. What do you suggest? And you came back to me right away and said, maybe you should talk to family or friends that own a business and see if they need any help in aspects. And I wanted to do social. So I reached out to a family friend's restaurant and offered to do their social media. And I did that for a few months, ran their Instagram and Facebook, organically posting, and took them from, I think it was 62, and now they're at, I just checked this morning, they're at 322, I think.
That's great. Yeah, so the important lesson I think to learn here is, did you get paid to do that?
I did not get paid to do this. I did it all.
Yeah, so there's a lot of controversy, I think, around expecting to get paid right away and maybe doing work for free. And what did you think about that? Were you okay with doing it for free? I think the outcome still ended up, with a job. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, doing maybe some work for free to build your portfolio?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a fantastic way to build your portfolio. You basically have to walk before you talk, and you have to prove yourself and show that you are capable of doing it. So for someone like me that didn't do an internship and was searching for a job, no one's going to really take a chance on someone that has absolutely no experience. So if you prove that you could work and make those results, whether it's free or paid, it's worth the chance. You have to go for that.
Yeah. The interesting part is I can't guarantee that if everybody else reaches out to me tomorrow and, follows my lead, that they will end up at a job here. But I was watching you after that point, and I really liked that you took my advice, and that I saw all the great posts you were putting out, the great content, and I saw all the interaction and the engagement. And I think that's important to know that you pulled it off, you did it, you worked really hard at it, and it ended up in a job. And so I think that's an important lesson for maybe recent grads that maybe don't have it all figured out right out of college. I myself didn't have it all figured out. I worked 3 jobs right out of college, and I think I made $5,000 a year. So I really did work for free. So, but I was gaining experience, and it took me into the job that really later, made me feel confident about working in the workforce. So that's great. So both of you guys have both very interesting stories, and I want to move into working from home, because I think before COVID, we as a company didn't really hire entry level, because I felt that an entry level person really likes that more interaction with people and being able to network more and be out there. And so tell me a little bit about what it's like to work from home. Do you like it? What are your thoughts on it? Is it achievable? Do you feel a part of a team? So I'd like to hear more about, why don't we start with you, Anastasia, on what it's like to work from home?
Yeah, for me, it was the best case scenario that I could have imagined for a job, because my grandmother wasn't feeling so well, neither was my grandfather, and I really wanted to take the time to spend as much time with them and be with them. So working from home and being able to keep an eye on them and being there through everything that they're going through was the best thing that I think is from working from home, is being with family and being close. And although I'm sure, again, like a lot of younger into the workforce want to socialize and be part of a team, we definitely feel that way here, especially because it's a lot smaller, but everyone feels so connected and so part of the team. And really, who says that you can't travel and work remotely too? If you want to get away and go to Colorado and, bring your laptop with you, work there, and go on an adventure as well, I think you very well can, and have really that work-life balance as well.
What about you, Jeana? Jeana, for everybody, sits in Sandusky, Ohio. So she was maybe going to move to Pittsburgh. She's still deciding, and she really doesn't have to. She can pretty much work from Sandusky, Ohio, if she wants to. So tell us what it's like to work from home for you.
Yeah, well, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, especially for an entry-level job, haven't been in an office setting before, but I kind of related it to online classes, because I did a lot of my college classes online, and I enjoyed that setting. I liked to do my classwork wherever I was. And so working from home just sounded like the right fit for me. And like Anastasia said, you could travel, you could be anywhere. I'm in Sandusky, Ohio, which is like 3 hours away from Pittsburgh. But yeah, you could be anywhere, and I think it's a great opportunity, and I think that's just where the industry is heading.
Yeah, it was interesting because COVID opened up a lot of doors for us as a company, and I think it really did, because we sometimes would have problems trying to land business with clients that just didn't understand it. They would just say, I just don't understand why you all don't go to an office every day. And, some of them still put that aside and move forward with us. And I think seeing us, work with them from virtual and from our homes really set the pace for them to even hire marketing people in their own companies to work from home or work from other cities. It just opens up so many doors to who you can hire for you in talent if you don't care really where they sit. So, so any advice or tips? We'll start with you, Anastasia, again. Any advice or tips on for our college grads who maybe are sitting at home right now, not working, or maybe haven't found that job yet? Any tips that you'd like to throw out?
I think the first one is be patient. And it's sometimes okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do coming out of college. And it's a lot of pressure to immediately start working and find your dream job and expect that that's what you're going to find. I would say biggest advice is, again, to continue to network and to continue to grow. Just because you graduate and you're not working doesn't mean that you can't find other avenues to keep yourself up to date, to really grow your knowledge, and hopefully open up more doors and opportunities.
So Jeana, how about you? I think you kind of really followed the path that I took. It took me a full year to kind of figure out and get the right job, to move in the right direction. So tell us what your tips are for college grads.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Anastasia. Patience is key. It does take some time to figure out what you want to do sometimes, and that's okay. I also suggest to try everything. You never know what is going to be the click for you, like what you're great at, until you try it. And so join those clubs, get those internships. It could be completely different than what you think you would have liked, but you never know unless you try. So definitely do
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's important too. A lot of business owners and just people in general that run successful companies, the first thing they'll tell you is they really don't hear from that many people. A lot of people don't ask them to help them or mentor them. And you'd be surprised when somebody does, you do reach out to them and they do respond. It's, everybody's always surprised by that, but a lot of times they don't really have, people are afraid to ask. And so my advice is don't be afraid to take that chance. I think I'd like to get back to Anastasia, because you had a lot of work experience before you came here. I know it wasn't really like a full-time job career, and congrats on your recent promotion. You got promoted pretty quickly here. That's how fantastic of a job you're doing. But tell me a little bit about what this job is like compared to your internships, or compared to maybe other jobs. I know you worked in New York for a little bit, right? With I think it was, who was it with again? It was with
Group
Spotify. Say it again.
Group M.
Group M. Yes. So tell me a little bit about how this is different. Good or bad, I guess. It's important to, we're not perfect over here, but anything that you want to give out advice on the difference, I guess, between the two.
Yeah, it's really hard, to be honest. I can't really think of a bad difference. I think internships, of course, they're so short. So when you feel like, if it's 2 months or 3 months during the summer, you feel like you're just picking things up and you don't fully grasp things. So when you really get into a career like here, that I feel like after that 3-month mark, you really start understanding what you're doing and understanding how you enjoy it as well. So I would say that's a bit of the difference as far as internships. The internships that I've had before have really encouraged mentorship projects, which has been really great in the past too. And I know that's what you encouraged too, is teaming up people internally and helping them grow each other. And I would say the other difference is just, again, a lot of those were bigger companies, and this one is just so smaller knit. And I love being able to see how impactful my work is. And I would say that would be definitely one of the biggest differences.
So Jeana, tell me a little bit about what it's like now that you're here, a little bit of, reality versus expectation of a first job. I think college grads really think, oh, they're going to get out of college and they're going to get the most incredible job right out of school. I think a lot of times you have to take a pause and really set your expectations for your first job. So tell me a little bit about your expectations versus reality of your first job.
Yeah, going into a first job, expectations, like you said, sometimes are very high, that you're going to get like this fantastic salary and you're going to be running the business essentially, or be like a number two. But you always have to start from the bottom and kind of show your worth and show that you're capable of doing it. And sometimes the expectation is that your first job isn't a forever job. But for me, reality, at a Hoffmann Murtaugh, I feel like there's so much room for growth, and like I am starting at the bottom, but I expressed that I was interested in social, and that wasn't originally a part of my job description, but now I'm working in social, and there's so much room for growth, and you can't say that this can't be a forever job, because you could grow into anything.
I think that's a great segue to maybe advice for any students right now that are in college. And I'll start with you, Anastasia. What advice do you want to give somebody that's in college right now? Because you're finishing up school. The world is a little bit different right now since COVID. What advice would you give them now that you're out? And what advice would be important to them right now as they finish up school?
Yeah, I think I've always been a big advocate of being involved in anything that you can, whether it's program-wise or just building your experience. School is great. You learn a lot in classes, but nothing beats like a real world experience. So if you can somehow juggle both and go to school, but also find opportunities or get involved in programs, and really just helps build that experience, helps you understand a little bit more of what you want to do. And also hopefully grows your resume as well. So just to be as active as possible. I know during COVID right now, it's really hard. And of course, to find different ways to be involved in the college in general, because there's a lot of connections that you can make there. And they're always, even from alumni events and networking events. So you never know who someone went to the same school as you, works at maybe somewhere that you want to work. So definitely look out for those connections through your university too.
Yeah, and a fun thing for you is you get to work with your university now on some marketing campaigns, and I'm
I
sure
love
you really
it.
love that.
Yeah, I get to work with the same people who I held a position in that same department too while I was in school, trying to build my resume and try different things. That was videography, so it's kind of different from what I do now, but it was something I enjoyed. And yeah, I get to work now with them, but on a completely, on a 360 almost, or a 180.
And they are very proud of you. They think you're doing a fantastic job working with them. And so I also get to enjoy working with my alma mater of Duquesne University. And I just love being able to work with the school that I went to. So what about you, Jeana? Tips for any students that are in right now that might be going into their senior year? I think you said you didn't have as many internships, and that kind of hurt you, I think, when you got out. So what would you have changed now that you're out of school?
Well, if I could go back, I would definitely try to get as many internships as I possibly could. I also would have tried to build up my LinkedIn a lot earlier than when I started. My freshman year, we were in a class where you had to create a LinkedIn and only have 25 connections. And then I didn't think about LinkedIn until the very end of my senior year. And I was like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? And so definitely add all of those people on LinkedIn. You're around thousands of people, and you never know where they're going to end up. And sometimes in business, it's if you know someone, or like if you have that connection, then you have an in the company. So definitely build up those connections and network yourself.
Yeah, and I want to let our listeners know too that these two both took different paths. One had lots of internships, had lots of jobs. I sought her out, Anastasia. I sought her out because her resume had a lot of interesting information and background on it. And so the other one, didn't quite do everything in college. Maybe was a little bit slower at the gate and still ended up with great jobs. And so I think the message I want to put out there is don't get frustrated if you don't have it all together figured out right out of college or even in college, because I myself had only one internship. I was on a scholarship, and so we went away every summer, we went away every weekend, and so it made it impossible for me to have an internship. And it took me a little while to really get my feet wet and get into my career right out of college. And now I own a business. So the point is, however fast you go, however slow you go, you still can get and still be successful in a career. And so don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. That's my advice to everybody. So any last, quotes that you live by right now, anything that you both want, start with Anastasia, but anything you want to leave with our listeners, any quotes, anything that would help motivate them?
Yeah, my quote that I should make it more of my mantra. I need to work on it more, but it's strive for progress and not perfection, which is something I feel like not just myself, honestly. I feel like a lot of people, especially when they graduate, they want the perfect job, they want the perfect life, the perfect house. And I think if we always strive to perfection, then we're not going to get anywhere and it will never be good enough. So everything is progress. Everything is a journey. So just working on the progress, doing things little by little to get you where you want to be. And those can come with some sacrifices. And again, just to make the most out of the college experience by really getting yourself out there, finding different jobs. It's great to get good grades, but to do that networking and finding internships is really what's gonna hopefully get you really ready for the real world.
Yeah, and I think social media puts a lot of pressure on young students. Yeah, there are those unicorns. People somehow do one thing, they end up 1 million followers and they start a career, but that is the minimal. That's not the norm. And so everybody needs to realize that their expectations are that they're going to have their own jearney and that they need to work towards their own journey. So I love that progress. I'm a big believer of every day showing up and being better or learning more. Jeana, how about you? Any quote, anything that you're living by right now?
I like to think that everything happens for a reason, whether it's going to be a lesson in your life or it's going to help you grow. Like, I kind of think like going out of college and then COVID hitting, I needed to take that break and to really process and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And if that never happened, I probably wouldn't be here right now. So I like to think that there's little lessons in life and you could just grow from it or it could hold you back. And so it just depends on what you want to do with your lessons and work on that. And so for anyone graduating, definitely network, definitely get yourself out there. I mean, I found you on LinkedIn and now I'm here. So you definitely
Yeah.
have to just put yourself out there. You never know unless you try.
Yeah, and I want to finish off with kind of a quote that I say all the time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's the tortoise, not the hare. And so these two young women have taken different paths to get here, and they're both here. And so the important lesson is you can move fast and move around fast and get there fast, and you can maybe take your time and you can move slow and you can still end up in the same position at a great company like Hoffmann Murtaugh. So thank you, Anastasia. Thank you, Jeana, so much for tuning in. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today to the HMDL podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to follow us on all our social media channels at Hoffmann Murtaugh. I'm Shea Murtaugh, and we'll see you on the next episode.